Indeed.
Can you hear me okay?
So the floor is all yours.
Fantastic.
Proceed with the presentation. Thank you very much.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. What a wonderful introduction. What a fantastic introduction, which builds up, which builds up for the audience, for everybody listening. Something is about to happen. So that's actually something, before we even get into anything, really, really important. An introduction, building up something that's going to happen, something special, hopefully something of value. So even before I start speaking, as a listener, hopefully your ears are already pricked up, ready to listen to what this is all about. All right, so once again, just let me introduce quickly myself. My name is Peter Hopwood, as you know. I'm a public speaking keynote coach. So I help people literally to stand on stages, keynote speakers at conferences, TEDx speakers, people maybe that are in the public eye and need to do an interview online, for example, or on camera, and they just need a little bit more confidence, need to build up a little bit more strength to make sure that they share their messages in the right way when it matters. So that's what I do. And at the same time, I also, you might maybe in the United Arab Emirates, in Saudi, I host conferences in the MENA region around Europe, so I'm on stage. So I do the things that I teach. So I go through all the things, or I've already been through all the things I'm about to share with you today, this afternoon. So let's crack on and get straight into it. So the first thing I'm going to ask you is, in fact, why do we need great presentations? So at the end of the day, why bother? Why is this something important? Well, you know, it is important. It is important because for me, and I'm sure for people that have seen good presentations, it makes you feel good. It makes you feel like you want to change something, maybe. It makes you feel inspired. It makes you give you that kind of, when it's finished, you have that kind of feel-good feeling inside, and you agree with many of the things that you've heard, or maybe even you've disagreed, but you've been inspired to hear somebody's opinion or emotion share out through that presentation. Every single day, we hear people sending us messages on YouTube, online, for example, I'm just thinking now, I fly a lot, I'm on plane, and the communication on the plane from, let's say, the pilot or the stewardesses, that's communicating. That is a presentation in a way. It's very small, it's very short, but you're presenting to a lot of people trying to share a message. Sometimes it's done well, sometimes it's not done well, but we're actually in front of people sharing their messages all the time, and it's really important that you get your message out clearly, concisely, and people understand and feel the message you really want to get across. So over the next 35 minutes or so, I'm going to share with you lots of cracking tips and ideas. These are all practical tips. So these are not just things that are just words, are not just things that you can read in a book. These are actually things you can actually do. So whatever level you are at in terms of your presentation process, whether you're starting out or whether you've been doing presentations for a while already, or whether you feel you're quite strong, there will be something in here that you can use to help you become even stronger. Okay? So, moving on. So, here's the thing. When you step out on stage or you start speaking to an audience that you may know or even don't know, the reality of it is your audience, they owe you nothing at all. You might think, you know, maybe you work for a great company, get paid a lot of money to come on a stage and speak by the organizers. But the reality is, when you start speaking, that moment, the audience, they're indifferent. They don't really care about you. They care about the value, the message they're going to get from you. Now, they need that message. They need to know what's happening right at the beginning of that presentation. They need to know in their mind, yes, actually, I'm going to stick around for this. Because they look you know, we've done it, we've all done it. We snap judge people. We make a snap judgment about people, about how they look, how they move, their voice, what they look like. And we start to create this kind of profile of the person on stage. And immediately we start to think, yes, this actually person could be credible. This person could actually help me with what I want to hear. Or you may be thinking, no, there's something about this person I don't like, something that's not quite right. We've all met those kind of people, yeah? At networking events, when we're having a drink in front of somebody, maybe, or around the buffet table, and we start a conversation, but we automatically know there's something not quite right. But on the other hand, there might be, you're talking to someone and it feels good and you just want to hear more. So at the beginning of your presentation, somehow you have to start to get people to start to trust you even just a little bit. It just starts with a very, very small steps. Now, even before you start speaking, there are certain things you can do to make sure that your audience is getting rid of those barriers to help them trust you. And that is, a lot of it is to do with your body language, your open body language. People need to see, there's certain things people need to see to start to trust you. And one of those things is your stomach. When your stomach is showing, it's easier for us as a listener, as an audience member, to start to trust that speaker. So think in your mind. You've all seen people stand right behind a podium or a lectern, and all you see is maybe the top half, very top half, just below their neck, and just top half, top part of their body, their head. And so all you've got to go by is their expression, their voice, maybe their hands if they move them around side to side. But you don't get to see their stomach. As soon as you see the full tip to toe body of a speaker, already instinctively in the back of your mind, you're thinking, actually, yeah, there's no barriers here. I'm starting to feel comfortable with this speaker. Same thing is with your hands. So you need to show that you have your hands somehow. So having them behind your back, not good. Okay, it's almost like, again, a sense of there's something he's hiding, there's something not quite right. In your pockets, we see that often, don't we? We've probably all done it at some stage. I have. I did certainly at the beginning of my career. Putting hands or one hand in the pocket. Again, it just gives that sense of maybe too relaxed. You're feeling too relaxed. And also, you're hiding one of your hands. You're almost like hiding something. So make sure you have your stomach showing, your body showing. If there's a podium, if there's a lectern, avoid it. If you can avoid it, avoid it. Now, it's really difficult to avoid it if you've got a full presentation and lots of notes and you're using your laptop. If you can start to move away or shift away from that, that will really help you in terms of your audience, gaining trust from your audience. All right. So whenever you speak in front of a crowd where people are looking at you, they're judging what you're saying and judging how you're moving, you need to start with that, with your arms by your side or just slightly up by your stomach area, but they need to see your hands and they need to see your stomach. All right. So what I usually do is I step straight every time I host. As an MC or a workshop, I make sure I think about where I'm going to stand. So I stand usually right in the center, and I stand just slightly towards the front of the stage, because that gives the impression that, I'm somebody who wants to give you something of value. I want to share something positive with you, and I want you to see that in me, so that makes you feel comfortable and ready to move on. Okay, so remember, everything that I say here, again, I'm sure there will be things that pop up in your mind, questions that you've got. So I want you to kind of keep those questions with you, maybe write them down, maybe a little note, and then at the end, I think we have about 15, 20 minutes or so for a whole great time answering your questions that you have regarding this session. All right. So we move on. So now there are, whenever I start to work with a client, an accelerator or a startup perhaps, or somebody who's just got to put together a speech, often the questions at the beginning are, I'm not quite sure how to put it together. Where do I start? I've got so much to say, so much to share, but I want to make sure I put it all together correctly. Now, there are two things you have to remember when putting together your speech. The first thing, and this is for any speech, at all, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 60 minutes. You need to think of the purpose. You need to think, what is the purpose of all this? What is the emotion? How do I want my audience emotionally to feel about this? What do I want them to change in their mindset? What is it when I speak afterwards, when I finish speaking, what do I want them to feel? What is it I want them to feel and kind of change in their mind? Once you've got that defined, you put that aside, and then the next thing you think about really clearly is the outcome. So what is the outcome? What is it you want your audience to do? All right, they've got to do something. They have to do something, whether it is just go to my website and click on a few pages and get to know my services. Or it may be having, you've heard, let's say for a startup, you've heard my idea, you agree with the idea, you're curious, you want to know more, come and chat with me afterwards, let's have a coffee, let's have a chat and talk more about this idea. It may just be that, it might just be going for a coffee. It might be something completely different, but you need to make sure your audience, that you need to make sure that you've got an outcome for your audience. So if I was to say, what is the purpose of this seminar, I would say, to help you gain a greater understanding of the techniques you can use to become a better presenter, to feel more confident standing on stage, to think to yourself, yes, these are things I can actually do. I can do them. I can actually do them. Now, the outcome, thinking about the outcome would be the next time you do a presentation, you do at least one of these things, at least one of the things that I'm going to share with you today. Not all of them, because it's a process. Very difficult to do every single thing. I mean, it takes quite a long time to kind of master everything, but just kind of, focus on one of them and do it. That would be an outcome for what this is about. So remember, once you've got your purpose, once you've got your outcome figured out, your whole presentation, your whole kind of script that you're going to put together of what you're going to say becomes a hell of a lot easier. It helps you shape things in the right way because you've got these two things in mind. These are kind of like almost not the goals, but the things that you need to have at the maybe top of the piece of paper to make sure everything you say has value and works towards at least one of these things. If it does, then you're moving in the right way, on the right direction. Okay, let's move on to another part. Now, all of this, if you were to ask me, what are the most important things to remember, to think about, to feel, I would say self-awareness. Now, just by listening to this and being with me here today, already you're on this path of self-awareness. So the more self-aware you are of how you present, of the things you do right, of the things you do that could be improved, of the things that you never thought about, but hey, actually that might work the next time I do it. So being self-aware, understanding, sort of seeing how you move on stage, seeing how you sound on stage will really help. Now there's only really one real way, the closest way of understanding how your audience sees you or hears you. Now, I can't get into your minds now. I have no idea who's listening, but hopefully you are listening, and there's lots of value for you. But here's the thing: there's only really one way of me knowing how I sounded. Now, you know how I'm going to do this? I am actually going to, after this is done, when this is on YouTube, when this is online, I can click and I can listen. I can hear myself speak. I will listen to myself. I will hear the things that I'm saying in this seminar that I like. I will hear things clearly, maybe a few things that I think, well, actually, I could have said it in a different way. It could actually be even better. So recording yourself with either your smartphone, a camera. I mean, the easiest way is the smartphone. Getting a friend, a colleague, just at the back of the room, record the first 5 minutes of your presentation, and looking back at that will really give you a great flavor of what you were like. Because the thing is, think about it, when you've done a presentation, you come off, maybe the next day someone will ask you, how did your presentation go? How did it all go? You had a keynote maybe, or you had a big presentation at work, and someone will ask you, you get home, your husband or wife will ask you, how did you do? Now you're probably going to say, you're probably going to think of the things that stood out in your mind during that presentation. Yeah, so it might be something that you did that you messed up, maybe something that wasn't great. So you're going to focus on that, and you're going to say, oh no, it was okay, but I messed up here and there. Or you just, maybe something that you said and you felt really good when you said it, and you knew it was really strong when you shared that with your audience. So you're going to focus on that. But the whole great thing about recording yourself is you see the whole picture. You see how you move, how your body gestures fit into everything, how your voice sounds, the pauses, the intonation, all those things together you will hear. So really strongly recommend every time, even if you've done it many times, actually, people that have done it many times, ego often gets kind of to cover our judgment, right? You need to strip down that ego, because every single one of us, even me, I've actually got a mentor that helps me. I'm a public speaking coach. I've actually got a coach who does the same job as I do, and he helps me. He helps me with ideas. He sees things that I have never ever seen before, even though I'm someone that shares these ideas with other people. So it's really good to see yourself from a different perspective. Again, if you can get a public speaking coach or somebody that you trust and knows the kind of techniques and things that can help, go ahead and get one. But for most of us, the quickest way, easiest way, is to use a camera, use a smartphone, record yourself for 5 minutes, and that will give you a great flavor of what you're about. Now, again, when you look at it, you'll think, I know what you're thinking now. Some of you are thinking, no way, I will never look at myself on YouTube or on video, ever. The first time you do it, you'll think to yourself, what am I doing? But when you actually look through it and start to objectively critique yourself, you'll start to see that it's actually really, really valuable to look at yourself in an objective way, critique yourself, and that is one of the quickest ways you will actually improve, by looking at yourself and understanding what you need to improve, and accept the things that you're doing really, really well, and polish those, and even become even stronger and stronger. Now, start with a bang. Now, what do I mean by this? Start with a bang. You literally, at the beginning of your presentation, one of the most important parts of any presentation is the beginning. As we agree, this is the part, the first 60 seconds or so, this is the part where your audience are judging you. They're making that judgment whether they're going to continue listening to you or not. So you need to make sure that those first two lines are strong. Something that's going to get people. Imagine this. So this is what I say to a lot of clients of mine. Imagine when you walk out on stage, the first two sentences, whatever you say, has to get your audience to get off of their phones. Imagine your audience are fully all on their smartphones. When you come out, you start to speak, first 60 seconds. After that 60 seconds, you want them to look up. You want them to look up and think, what's this? Even if they're not quite sure what's happening, but they're just curious. They're thinking to themselves, this could be good. What is this? What on earth is this? Sometimes you need to do something, shock treatment even, just to get people to look up. And once you've got them, then the trick is to keep them going, to keep adding value, to telling them what they're going to get, telling them this is actually something, making them feel like this is something of value. Once they've got that in their mind, in your audience's mind, then it's a lot easier to start sharing your content with them. All right, so make sure you you start with a bang. Okay, so for example, hello, my name is Peter Hopwood and I'm a public speaking coach, and I'm going to share with you right now some ideas and tips all about creating great presentations. Now that there, I'm sure we've heard millions of keynote speakers say roughly the same thing. Hello, my name is blah blah blah, I'm going to talk to you about blah 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 and blah blah blah. Now that's okay, but we've heard it all before. We need to hear something different. Our brains are wired in a way that helps us understand things better and quicker, and we're more curious with things that are new, things that are different, things that make us think. So you can start off with, a lot of people start off with a question. A lot of people say, can I ask you a question? How many people, blah, 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 and then they put their hands up. That's okay as well. But again, you don't need to say, can I ask you a question? Just go straight into the question. So, for example, you can come on and go, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Now, here's the thing. How many of you will agree that London is a wonderful, wonderful city? I'm sure you'll agree with me that it is. So already, they don't even have to put their hands up. You even just like short nods as well as you say that. People are agreeing with you. So it's all about getting people to agree with you. More startup pitches, for example, that have more nods, more people agreeing with them, actually have more success. So more, again, it's the same with presentations. More presentations that have the agreeable aspect in it, they're the ones that are actually more successful and more engaging. So you need to start off with, I would strongly suggest at the beginning, get people to agree with you. And then once they agree, there's that connection. There's that connection. You start off with a short, small emotional connection. And then you build on that, and you keep doing that. And then it's easier, again, for your audience to become more engaged with you and with you with them. Right, spark interest. Spark interest. Now, what I mean by spark interest? Sparking interest. Now, there are many ways we can get people to kind of listen to us. I'm thinking along the lines of advertisers. How do they, over the years, how have they always managed to get us to get off our phones? A commercial on TV. Why do we look up, and why do we remember these commercials? What makes us, take notes and grab our attention? Now, if I ask you now, what are the things that in society that help us to that grab our attention? I've come up with a few. I'm sure you've got quite a few as well. But it's worth bearing in mind, these things here could actually help you to gain that interest at the beginning. Now, first one, clearly money. Money is a big winner. Clearly money. Talking about money, but I'm not talking about saying how much money you have or how much money somebody else has, but just giving the indication of money, of somehow within your opening statement, for example, again, gets people to take note. Now, I'll give you an example. I'm just going to share with you now my elevator pitch, all right? And tell me which words for you stick in your mind the most, perhaps. Okay, here we go. So my name is Peter Hopwood, and I'm a public speaking keynote speaker coach. And I simply help people to stand on stages and build confidence. I help them to get their message out more clearly and more concisely, and I help them to gain the investment they need when it matters. So those kind of three things that I've popped into my elevator pitch, more or less, yeah. Which things in there stick out for you? Hopefully probably the last one, gain investment. There, I didn't even say money. I didn't even give a figure. I just said investment. So financial reward or financially move forward. These kind of things help people to spark their interest. Okay, another one is future promise. So future promise is basically telling your audience at the beginning what they're going to get, what your audience is about to get, what they're going to get from this. Like at the beginning of this webinar, what did I say to you? What was the introduction? What was the value you're about to receive? So, you know, I said something like, you will, after this webinar, you will walk away with ideas, tips, things you can actually use, things of value to you to help you become a stronger presenter. So already at the beginning, you're thinking, you're kind of rubbing your hands, and in your mind, you're thinking, yes, I'm in the right place. Yes, this is the right place for me, and I'm going to learn something from this, and I'm going to stick around. So that there, just by giving them something, but you got to make sure whatever your future promise is, you deliver. You have to give that value. All right. So it's like a headline, like headline in a newspaper or headline online. When you read a headline, you think, oh, that's interesting. You click, and most of the time you get what's expected from that headline. Sometimes, clearly, online, naughty people are doing naughty things and giving wrong headlines to make you click on something that you're not actually going to get. So make sure, you know, your future promise. Think about what it is, the value you're going to get. Often I ask keynote speakers just before they walk on stage. So I'm having a short chat with them as a host. So I was at a conference 2 days ago, in fact, here in Croatia, and just before the speaker would go on stage, I would say to them, look, listen, can you just give me one sentence? Tell me one sentence that shows the value of what your audience is going to get after you speak. Yeah. So they tell me that, and that gives me a really good flavor of how to introduce them. Although I've already created my introduction, this is an added bonus because it really helps me sort of formulate what they are going to speak about and why the audience should listen. That's all what it's all about. Why the audience should listen to you. Because as I've already said at the beginning, nobody cares. So many messages, so many people on stages. Doesn't matter how much money you earn. Doesn't matter who you work for. You can be an amazing employee of an amazing company with an amazing message. But if you don't deliver that value, if they don't walk away feeling the value right for that audience, it's not worthwhile at all. All right. So remember, your audience doesn't owe you a thing. You have to spark the interest. You have to share something of value. Moving on, recognition. Again, recognizing your audience is always a nice thing to do. So maybe at the beginning, sometime in the beginning, let's say you're at the beginning of your presentation, and again, just making sure that your audience feel comfortable and they're in the right place, and they feel, yeah, actually, I feel good. So, for example, I was at a HR conference not so long ago, and somewhere in my opening paragraph, I said, it's wonderful to be here on the stage here, sharing HR ideas and techniques and things that will be of value to people that really understand the value of HR and where it's moving forward. So it's great to be in a room with so many professionals and experts in that field. So straight away, your audience is feeling, actually, yeah, I'm in the right place. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling ready to what's about to come. So recognizing your audience in some way, you don't have to like praise them fully, but just making sure that, you know, they know that you're thinking about them. They know you're thinking about the value they want from that presentation. Okay. And another couple of ones I've popped in there as well. Safety and security. Now, these two are kind of very similar together. The whole insurance industry is based on this. Safety, making sure that people feel safe. the risks, lots of risks that pop up all the time, and then giving a solution, providing something that's going to help them feel safe and feel comfortable. In the event that something happens, you will be safe. This makes people think. Yes, actually, I need to listen to this because it could be of value. All right. So they're just a few. They're just a few things. I'm sure you've got a couple of your own, and if you want, we can talk about those a little bit later on when we're in the question and answer phase of this webinar. Right. Moving on. 3 things. Now you might have heard this before, but it's fantastic. 3 things. 3 things are really important when we talk about putting forward our argument. All right. So if you want to influence somebody, or if you want to somehow put your ideas across and put them across with credibility, put them across with weight, so that people remember, using the 3 things idea will help you. Let me just explain how that works. So, for example, anything. I'm going to try and now persuade you that a banana, all right, maybe not a banana, an apple is a great food to eat. All right, and I want to trying to persuade you that it's a great food to eat. So I could just, like, in my mind just now, think of a few things and say, look, you know, an apple is really, it's nice, it tastes really good, it's juicy, it's something that it's quite accessible as well, and you know, a lot of people eat them, and they feel good when they eat them. You know, it's healthy. So all those things I can kind of throw in there. But if I just kind of narrow it down and just choose 3 things, this is how it could go. Let's say, okay, this is just a top of my head. Let's see. So an apple is a fantastic food to eat because it's accessible, it's tasty and juicy, and is something you can eat every single day. So I've just said, like, kind of like 3 main things that back up why an apple is great to eat, is a great food. So, I mean, you can do it yourself. Just think of something, you know, an argument you want to put forward. Just make sure you've got 3 things. Boom, boom, and boom. All right. If you do it in that way, even if you've just got 2 main things, think of 1 more. And actually switch it around and make sure that last thing is the most important thing. Because that's the thing that they'll remember the most out of those 3. Just having 3, it helps them to remember. Our brains, no matter where we are in the world, our brains are wired in a way to remember mainly 3 things. Anything more than 3, often, unless our brains are wired in a different way, maybe some of us are. I'm certainly not. Most of us aren't. But if most of us have the normal kind of brain, we can't think of anything more than 3. Can't remember anything more than 3. So 4 maybe, but if we stick with 3, you're more likely to help to build that credibility up and get people to remember. And it sounds more credible as well. All right. So if you keep things in 3s, it will certainly help. Again, when you're putting your presentation together, so many great messages you want to share, so many things you want to share with your audience. Think of 3 things. Think of 3 main ideas. Stick with those 3 ideas. Pop in a few bits and pieces, you know, fluttered around, sprinkled around your presentation. But if you focus on those 3 things, it will help your audience remember those 3 things. And you'll also look quite kind of structured as well. All right. So if you look structured or feel structured, helps you remember, helps your audience remember, and people somehow the credibility is just builds up slightly more. Okay. Let's move on. By the way, as we go through this, how is this working? Will listeners be able to throw in their comments as I speak, or how's it working? I hope you are still there. Is that you are there?
Yeah,
Great.
yeah. Well, people are actually, I mean, folks, you can always put up your comments as Peter asked. So while we'll reach to the
Can I see this
Q&A in
one?
about 4 to 5 minutes, well, I suggest, I mean, let's move towards the question and answers, and then we'll start the interactive session at then.
Well, what I was suggesting is, as I continue, if I can see the questions come up, this will be great for me, because then if it's things that are connected with the topic, then I can throw them in at the same time.
All right, folks, you, as the speaker requested, you can always insert your questions. Well, we were planning to commence it in about 5 minutes from now, but you can feel free to insert your questions, Q&A, and I'll be happy to stop and ask the speaker. But Peter, I request, I mean, you might as well just continue and try to conclude in the next 5 minutes before we start.
Okay,
Yeah.
fine. How long more have we got? How much more time do we have?
We have 5 more minutes, or yeah.
Okay. Okay, let's continue. I'm not sure whether you can see this on the side of my screen. Can I take that off? Is it still there? Okay. Anyway, I'll continue. So this is butterfly formation. So this is all about the nerves. So dealing with nerves, really, really important to think about the value you're going to share. Because when you start to think about that, that helps you focus less on what the audience thinks, less on you feeling nervous, thinking about what they're thinking of, what you're wearing, how you're sounding, what you look like. Because at the end of the day, again, they don't care. They don't really care. They care about the value and the messages you're going to share. So if you can think about that will really help you calm down. Your anxiety will start to calm down. Now, when I say butterfly formation, I mean those butterflies that are flying around all around in your stomach. I get them as well. Every time I start a conference, every time I start a workshop in front of an audience, I get those butterflies going around. But somehow they're kind of moving in the right way, right formation, in a way that I'm comfortable with, and I kind of turn that into energy. I use the anxiety to kind of give me the kind of like focus and energy ready to share something special. So I'm already thinking on the side of the stage, just a few minutes before I go on, I'm thinking, I am going to make sure I'm going to nail this. I'm going to share this, and this. I'm going to make sure they're going to feel good. I'm going to give them what they want. I'm going to make sure when they walk away, they're going to get the value from me. They're going to get my insights that are going to help them. All right. So already just thinking about that gets my mind off thinking about what they're thinking about me. I stand on that stage and I want them to judge me. Let them judge me, because I'm going to make sure that they can't fault me on my passion. They can't fault me on the value I want to share with them. And if they fault me on anything else, that's absolutely fine. Again, a good thing to remember is your audience, some of your audience will not like what you say. Some of your audience will not appreciate your value, the messages, and that's okay. That's perfectly okay. It took me a long time to get used to that, understanding that, I wanted every single member of the audience to feel good and clap and smile, and it doesn't happen. It won't happen. A lot of the audience won't even smile or won't even give you the signals that you would maybe expect or want in terms of a reaction from your messages, because your audience will often, they look like they don't appreciate it. They look like they're not that interested, right? That's okay. But if you share, let me tell you, if you share your energy and you focus on what you want to focus on the value for them, they may not appreciate it there and then, but they'll appreciate it afterwards. All right, they will. All right, so make sure, if anything, your content, make sure that gives value to your audience. Okay. All right, let's move on quickly to the next one. Secret weapon. This is basically secret weapon. What would you say my secret weapon is? It's difficult to know without seeing me, because all you have is a picture of me that you saw earlier on. But actually, as I've been speaking, I can see myself on this black screen, on my laptop. I can actually see mirror. I can almost see a mirror of myself speaking. And you know what? I'm actually using my arms. I'm using gestures. I'm actually using gestures as I speak to you in this webinar. You can't see any of those, but just by using those gestures, just by using my arms and hands, I actually sound better. It's a crazy thing, but it's so true. When you use gestures, try it. So put your hands behind you by your sides and say 1 minute of or just like 60 seconds of a presentation, right? Then do the same thing. Move your arms up to around where your chest is, either side, and just relax them, and just try to use them in the same way you were trying to get your messages across with gestures. All right, you will sound, it's strange, you will actually sound better. You sound better. So using gestures really helps. So it helps your audience keep track. So if you've got gestures that are structured and are connected with your messages, you look like someone who's structured, and it helps your audience, as I say, to keep track of what's happening. All right, and it helps you keep track as well. Numbers. So anything less than 5, you can use with your hands. You know, 2 things. There are 2 things, and put up 2 fingers. Or there are 3 things I want to share with you right now. Or the one main aspect of all this to remember is, and you put up your 1 finger. All right. Again, people get the messages quicker, and they remember it as well. Another one is volume. So you're talking about something big. Use your arms from left to right, something very big. Or it might be something really small. So you put maybe your thumb and your first main finger next to your thumb, putting it together like something really small. So again, your gestures connect with what you say, and you actually sound better, and people can get your messages a lot quicker. Emotion. Using emotion when you're talking about something that's important to you. Now, as I say that, so if I say to you, I really want to talk to you now about something that really means a lot to me. As I say a lot to me, my hands are actually with my palms just going towards my chest. So something really important to me, and I'm using, you can't see that right now, but I'm trying to describe what I'm doing. And when you do that, again, it's just this connection, this little bit of emotion with the listener looking at you, makes them feel, yeah, actually this person is more genuine, this person means this. All right, thumbs up, something's good, again, put the thumbs up. Me, we, you, again, sharing your gestures out towards your audience. You, not pointing, but just with open gestures with your palms. You, we, I, this all really helps as well. Right, we are going to move on. You know what, we're going to move straight on. There's a couple more things I've got here, but hopefully I can use these things here within the answers of the questions from people listening.
Yes. So,
yeah. Okay. Let's open up to questions.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much for a very intriguing presentation, folks. We are now open for Q&A. So please feel free to insert your questions in the question box, or you could equally raise your hand. There's a hand icon available. If you want to speak directly with the speaker, you can always raise your hand, so you can have an even audio conversation. Let me go to the question box. There are a couple of them already posted. Peter, what is the most important part of a presentation to think about?
That's a really good question, actually. So thinking about, so as I say, there's lots of things to think about, and to do all that at the same time is really difficult. But if I was to say to anybody, one thing you've really got to figure out is accepting that first 60 seconds will make or break your presentation. All right, that first 60 seconds has to be, you have to get people to start to listen to you, because if they don't, they're going to turn off. If they don't think this is of value, if they don't think this is going to be something good for them, they will turn off. We do it all the time, every single day, on YouTube, online. We're watching a video, we watch an advert on TV. We don't like it. What do? Bang, we switch channels, or we click and we watch something else. And with that commercial, or all the money that's put into that advertisement or whatever it is, it's gone down the drain completely, because that 60 seconds hasn't given the listener something to feel like, actually, yeah, this is something good. I'm going to stick around. This is of value to me. This guy or this speaker could be something of value to me. So really make sure that first 60 seconds is curious, gets people to listen, and they're ready to sit there and listen on to your messages. I would say that, because without that, you're stuck.
Okay, thank you very much. Another one. How do you want us to link our purpose in initial slides as an illustration? So can you give us an example? How should we prepare the content of purpose in our slides?
Yeah, really good question. So the purpose is more about just thinking how. So it's almost like getting a piece of paper down, getting a pen, and then writing down just bullet points, just a few words on each bullet point about how you want your audience to feel. So do you want them to feel, is it a subject that's really like dramatic? Is it something that's really kind of like a global idea? Is it something that is really, is it fun? Is it going to make them laugh? Is it going to make them feel good? Is it a fun subject? Is it something, in a pitch, a startup pitch, where often you're looking for investors, you're looking for people to invest into your idea, right? They've got to understand that this is something really important. So the purpose is not so much about popping that into your slides. It's about having this kind of mindset and approach that you want to deliver to your audience. All right. Hopefully that makes sense. It's about how you want them to feel, how you want them to feel when they listen to your speech. Do you want them to feel like, this is, something that's really passionate, or is it something that is fun and gets people to smile, So once you've got that figured out, that will help you work out the kind of the way you want to deliver your idea.
Okay, thank you very much. Another one. Normally people suggest to continuously look at the audience during presentation than your own slides. Do you agree that we should be well prepared to memorize all and look only at the audience than on our own slides?
Great question. Right, here's the thing. So when someone's looking at you, all right, or let's say the other way, if somebody's on a podium or on the stage with a piece of paper, looking down at the piece of paper and just reading, right, their connection with you is zero. There is no, because anybody can stand up there and read, right? So when you start to look at someone, you just look at them, even just for a second or two, you make that connection. All right. So when you're standing there, looking at your audience is a good thing, really, really good thing. So moving around slightly, looking at different parts of the audience, trying not to read. Sometimes you do because you forget things, but trying not to read is good. Now, what I do is I use my slideshow. As you can see, this slideshow is really, really minimal, really minimalistic. Right, but I use my slideshow as kind of like chunks. These are all chunks that I know very well in my head. Okay, I've done this many times before, but the thing is, each of these elements, I know I can talk a lot about this topic, like voice, or pause it up, or self-awareness. Yeah, so you use your slides as almost like a trigger to share your chunks of information. Now, you don't have to memorizing your whole presentation is not really a good idea, because really at the end of the day, if you're presenting something, you really should know about it. You should know the ins and outs of it. Now, the thing is, we're often put on the spot because often our bosses or someone else will give us a presentation to do. We don't know too much about it, and we've only got like 24 hours before we have to present it. All right, and it comes across when people listen to it. You come across as somebody who doesn't really know the subject too well. So my suggestion would be, number one, understand your subject in and out. Completely know it. And now if you've created a presentation, you're going to know your subject really, really well. All right. Use your slideshow, just your slides. I've only got about 12 slides in this whole slideshow. So I use it just as a trigger to get me thinking about the next topic. Now, I already know, and your audience shouldn't really be looking at your slides too much. They should be focused on you. The whole presentation is about you. Your slideshows are just an aid, just to kind of help, a support. Now, if it's quite technical, your slideshows then become more important. But again, try to make it as simple, clear, concise as possible. And a great suggestion would be, as I say, try to use your slideshow, each slide, just as a trigger. So, okay, maybe as you press it, you look at the screen. If you've got a screen in front of you, fantastic. If the screen's behind you, just quickly look at the screen to know that it's up, and then you face your audience. All right? There's no substitute for actually standing there looking at your audience. They're looking at you, your stomach, your hands. You're looking at them, and you're talking to them. You're sharing your value. You're sharing your ideas. So if you can try to do that, and not memorize your speech. The only part of your speech you really should memorize is the first 60 seconds. You got that first 60 seconds nailed, and it comes across in a really, with that energy and the focus, and they know what they're gonna get, and they're feeling comfortable, feeling good for the next part of the seminar or the next part of the presentation. Then that is the only part you really need to memorize. Everything else you really should know or feel like you could just talk about it. So a good task as well to do is talk about those elements, each slide, individually. Just talk about what's on that slide with someone else, not looking at your presentation. And that will be a good test to know how much you actually remember or not. Okay, hopefully that helps.
Yeah, thank you very much. Another one from Brother Mahmoud Sharaf. The question is, would it be important to change the level of presentation in terms of professional to get audience attention?
I'm not quite sure what you mean by that.
Neither am I. So, Brother Mahmoud, if you could raise your hand if you want to just speak up and clarify. Let me see if I can unmute him and normal. Just a second. All right, he's raised a hand. Yes, Brother Mahmoud, could you please introduce yourself and ask the question?
Yeah, this is Mahmoud Sharaf. I'm the CEO of the Horizon Medical Care. The question is that, most of the time when we have, presentation, you would like to get all the audience attention. So when you talk in one level of, in a very, sophisticated or, the level of professions, those are graduate or, postgraduate, whatever. And then you sometimes lower, the level of the presentation in looking to bring them all together at one time. So you are getting the slow one, the fast one. So all of them will be, together in one boat. Do you believe that this is, important as part of the presenter skills, or he just go in smoothly sailing, and everyone should follow him?
Okay, thanks for that. If I've understood the question correctly, it's about at the beginning trying to get the attention, get the right tone, get people to pay attention to you when it's sometimes quite difficult. Yeah, is that right?
Yes, absolutely right. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, the whole thing is, at the end of the day, you can have an audience just the type of audience you have who are just thinking of other things, because that's okay. They've got other priorities in their mind, right? So somehow you have to give yourself the credibility that yes, actually I'm worth speaking to, right? So if I was, let's go straight to it. If I was in a situation where I walk into a room and I've got like lots of people in there, some people on their phones, some people are chatting in the corner, some people are saying something else, half of them are looking at me. You know, it's all about managing your audience, managing your presence. So walking in there, I would probably walk in there, stand there, look quite serious, start looking at a few people. If they were like younger, let's say younger students, for example, I'd maybe slowly walk over to them. Just make sure that the whole room can see that I'm ready to give something of value, right? So it's very difficult because there are many different cases, but the thing is, as I say, your first sentence, that is going to get people to know whether they're going to listen or not. All right, and actually lowering your voice. Sometimes lowering your voice, slowing down your voice, giving you even more credibility, can actually be quite powerful. All right, so not kind of raising your voice to get people's attention, but the opposite. And if you've got a microphone, so it's a lot easier with a microphone. If you've got a microphone, you can really use that and really lower your voice and put lots of pauses in there and get people to really listen and understand what you have to say. Hopefully that helps.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Very clear.
Great.
Well, thank you very much for asking a question, Brother Mahmoud Sharaf. So that really brings us towards the end of the webinar. Any quick concluding remarks that you would like to give before we dismiss that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if we go through right to the end, the last thing I say is actually always leave your audience with a sweet dessert. Now, what do I mean by that? Always leave them with something really tasty, something sticky, something really good. So a message that you've got that you really want to share with them, that you will get them to remember. Now, here's the thing. Often we do the kind of question and answers at the end, right? So my tip for you is if you can avoid questions and answers, right, and the last thing you do is a question and answer, that would be great. So switch it the other way. Like, for example, like this webinar here. So we've just done a webinar together, lots of ideas, lots of tips, and now we're going to open it up for the question and answer session. So then you do question and answers. Now, with questions from audiences, you never know what you're going to get. We all know that. We've got people in the audience that don't like us, maybe we've got some competitors, maybe journalists. So you never know what kind of questions you're going to get, and you could actually end on a really boring question and a really not a great answer. So my suggestion for you would be make sure you finish on your agenda. So for example, you finish the last question. Okay, we've just finished the last question, but before I leave, I would love to leave you with this last idea, or I would love to share this last key message before I leave. And then bang, you give them one last message. So my last message for you would probably be, well, not probably, it is, your mindset is the main thing. So your mindset will shape the way you deliver your presentation, the way you say it, and the way people believe you and give you the credibility as well. So just before you go on stage, if you're feeling good, if you're feeling like you want to share something special, you feel like this is exciting, you feel all these things, your audience feel the same. If you walk on stage the opposite, if you feel, oh no, I'm not feeling great, they're going to judge me in the wrong way, I'm not going to be able to perform, I'm going to look like an idiot, people will see that, people will hear that, they will feel that. So again, my last main message for everyone really is, if you can get into the mindset, a strong positive mindset, even if it's just before you walk on stage, try to do it well before, but if you can do it just before, almost like turning on a switch. People say confidence is something that everybody either has or they haven't, right? It's wrong. Confidence on stage is a switch. All right, you gotta sort of learn to turn that switch on, to put yourself in on stage and shine in an awkward situation, shining on stage. So turn that switch on when it matters, and when you come off stage, you just turn the switch back down, like I do. All right, so I'm not always confident. I'm confident in my job. I'm confident in what I do. I'm confident on stage, but I'm not always. I'm just like every single one of you who's listening to me. I'm not confident in certain situations in life and in business. But work on stage, when I'm doing when I'm speaking to the public, it's really important that you know how to, or you learn how to turn up that confidence level. It's the same like when you're going on a date, right? You turn it up slightly, or you're going for an interview. You have to turn it up slightly so people get see the best side of you. And you have to do that when you stand on stage. All right. So that's my sweet dessert. And that leaves me to the end of this webinar. But listen, I would, anybody who's listening to this, please link up with me on LinkedIn. If you're on